Hi guys, Mr. Eskew here. Today we're going to be starting Type 3 nomenclature. Remember, we've covered Type 1, Type 2. Now we're ready to jump into Type 3. Now go ahead and put these notes in your handy dandy notebook. Pause it for a little bit. Let everybody get that, make sure you get this down, and then we'll start talking about it. Alright, here we have Type 3 binary covalent compounds. Now notice up to this point in time, Type 1 and Type 2 have been ionic compounds. Now we have what are called covalent compounds. In covalent compounds, the electrons are being shared instead of lost and gained. The key thing here is, instead of being fixed or variable, you have to recognize that the two elements in the compound are both nonmetals. So that's why we have nonmetal written. Now, naming them is somewhat similar to Type 1s and Type 2, but there are some differences. To begin with, the first element in the formula is named as the element. So if you have carbon, you just name it carbon. Or if you have oxygen, you would just name it oxygen. It's that straightforward. The second element is named as though it were an anion, and you're going to have an IDE ending. We're all familiar with the chloride, the oxide, sulfide. You'll have that kind of ending on the second element. But here's where the difference is. We're going to use, when we have binary covalent compounds, prefixes. These Greek prefixes, they'll be used to denote the number of atoms present. We'll see that in just a second when we use our examples. So we're going to use prefixes. We don't use them on Type 1. We don't use them on Type 2. The only exception to using prefixes is that we never use mono on the first element. For example, and I'll give you some, we do not say mono carbon dioxide. We just simply say carbon dioxide. All right, let's look at some examples. All right, guys, as we talked about before, we're going to be using prefixes. I want you to go ahead and put these down in your handy dandy nomenclature notebook. This will still be on the left side if you have room for it. Now, if you don't, because of the way you write, big writer, some of you don't, go ahead and put them where you can put them. On the right side will be okay, but we're going to have a couple examples over there too. So write these down. Pause it if you have to. All right, guys, here we go. Being consistent with what we said, we're going to put our examples on the right side of our handy dandy nomenclature notebook. And we're going to start out with a very simple example. Let's go with BF3. And once again, our filters are, is it binary? Well, yes, it is. Then you look at it, is there a metal and a nonmetal? Well, no, there isn't. There's two nonmetals, so you instantly go to Type 3 nomenclature. So Type 3 nomenclature says that we name the first element just like the element's name. We're going to call that boron. And then we're going to look at the second one, and we're going to change the ending to IDE. But because we're using Type 3 nomenclature, we need to indicate how many there are. So we're going to put trifluoride. So it's boron trifluoride. Now notice, I did not put right here in front, I didn't put monoboron, because if you look at that last bullet over there on the left side, it says that we never use mono with the first element. So we just simply have boron trifluoride. All right, let's do another example. Something as simple as this. Once again, binary. It's nonmetal, so we're going to use prefixes, and we're just simply going to call the first element by its name that's on the periodic table, nitrogen, and then we have one oxygen, and because it's Type 3 nomenclature, we're going to use the prefix there, and we would call it monoxide. Now notice here, I don't say monooxide. When you have your two vowels together, you sort of blend them. Now, I wouldn't count it wrong initially when you start doing this, but just get used to this. That instead of saying monooxide, it's monoxide. All right? Okay, guys, here's our third and last example. We're going to do N2O5. Now, notice here, instead of just having one nitrogen, we have two nitrogens, so we have to indicate that with a prefix. So I'm going to put di-nitrogen, and then I have 5 oxygens. That's going to be sorry about that, guys. That's going to be pent oxide. And we don't say pentaoxide, we say pent oxide. You've got those two vowels going together. Guys, it's that simple, and clearly we're going to practice some of these.